Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This is Seeking Me Productions, bring you another ranking video.
Oh yes, the time has come for us to go into Marvel's latest phase right now, towards the end. And we're talking about Phase 4?
Phase 5.
Phase 5, my god, it's been so many phases. And let's just go ahead and say right off the bat, this ain't the best phase they've had. If anything, it's been a steady slope downwards, from their previous ones. And the writing was on the wall. At least we saw it, and we've been trying to point it out here and there. But they just kept on digging holes and cashing checks they really couldn't catch up on. So, but there are some gleaming gems in the bunch. But for the mass majority of them, well, we'll just see how it is.
Yes, and also be on the lookout for other content we post on this channel. Please like, share, subscribe. We're close to 1,000 subscribers.
We can get there. We're real close, y'all. Let's go.
Yeah. Phase 5 brought in some long-awaited heavy hitters. But unfortunately, how can you be introducing those big Marvel characters when barely anybody comes to see them or watch them on TV?
So true.
Yeah. So as we rank up these productions from least to best, let's do a quick shout out to X-Men '97.
I absolutely love what they did with this series. I was a big fan of when it was originally on Fox Kids, the original first series, and then being able to bring it back was just an absolute gift. And they brought it back hard.
We're highlighting X-Men '97 because it was produced by Marvel Studios, but it is not part of the cinematic universe.
Nope.
Hopefully, it can continue that strong ride debut.
Very true.
And also, something that's not going to be on this list is your friendly Spider-Man animated show.
We didn't watch that, and mostly that revolves around the concept that we're just tired of seeing Peter Parker as a high schooler. It's been done to death.
It takes place in his own corner universe in itself, so that's not really in the whole scheme of things, the MCU.
Exactly.
But let's begin this ranking list in the bad section. Yeah. No, I feel as though it comes to no surprise is Secret Invasion and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
With Secret Invasion, it was just nowhere near the brilliance that was the actual comic book run that this one was supposed to be based off of. It doesn't do any of it justice, and then it's also a slap in the face of Nick Fury's character, especially the one being portrayed by the brilliant actor Samuel L. Jackson. They have not given that man his due in the MCU, just as much as they didn't do the due for Black Widow when it was being helmed by Scarlett Johansson. Those two characters deserve the justice that they absolutely did not receive by Marvel Studios, and this Secret Invasion was just another one of those slaps that is just too dang disrespectful to actually deal with. And then when it comes to Ant-Man Quantumania, those movies were never all that great in my opinion.
Yeah, Peyton Reed is not the best director at all in the MCU. And
yeah,
it's kind of strange how Feige was able to allow Peyton Reed to continue on that series of films, and enough has been said about Jonathan Majors' situation.
Yeah, we don't really go into
as
that.
far as I'm concerned with Secret Invasion, I would highly recommend you watching the animated series Avengers: Earth Mightiest Heroes for a better adapted version of that story.
You want to talk about something y'all need to bring back? Please bring that back.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next section, the OKs. We'll start off with that. With What If seasons 2 and 3.
When What If was first brought to us, we absolutely loved it. It was an anthology series that was giving us multiple different perspectives from different realms and different realities with the heroes that we actually come to love and adore. And it was just interesting to see those unique storylines play out. And the animation was also stellar when it was actually seen, brought before us on our eyes. However, as the series continued on, it started doing something that a lot of other anthology series end up making the biggest mistake of, and that means going linear when they find a particular storyline within one of their episodes and they keep running with it. That's not to say that that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's interesting to go back and think about American Horror Story, where everybody loves when the witches came on board. those are interesting storylines that we do like to see. But it's not something that you should always do when the premise of the series is supposed to be about multiple different stories.
Yes, it's season 2 and 3. They dropped the ball a lot. There are still some interesting episodes
and interesting characters they brought through.
But it's unfortunate that a series that technically should be running a lot longer than it should.
Yeah,
should. Daredevil Born Again.
This was totally disrespectful and very disappointing. We loved Daredevil when it was on Netflix. I believe that's something that we can attribute for everybody.
Yes.
And then when it was said it was going to bring it back, of course we was all overjoyed and was very hyped to see it. But at the same time, we also had that nagging feeling if was Disney prepared to actually bring back in the way it was supposed to.
Now, to its credit, they did manage to have continue the mature tone.
They did.
Probably a little bit more so than even Netflix was able to pull off.
Especially with that one episode.
Yeah, the finale of season 1.
However,
it's just, it feels very restrictive, even though it's now knee deep into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But for what the cheaper production that the Netflix series did, it actually was able to do a lot more and tell a lot more than apparently what Disney was able to do. We have a review for this separately, so if you want to check more about our thoughts on Daredevil Born Again, check that out.
of course.
Echo.
This is a series that I absolutely still don't. I'm on the defense about whether or not it was really necessary for this particular character to have this outing. And I'm really at this point, even though I loved what they did with the show, at least in certain respects, at the same time it also still had that big elephant in the room that revolved around the concept of whether or not this really even needed. I feel as though this character really only needs to have certain spotlight episodes in another series that's actually more warranted, and it really showed in this one.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Listen, we love what Ryan Reynolds has done with the character of Deadpool, and it's always been a fun outing whenever we got to go deal with Wade Wilson. That being said, I feel as though this particular movie, I feel as though it's something we agree on, just felt more of a cash grab and a desperate attempt to really gain back the audience that Marvel has steadily and surely pushed away from themselves.
It's got to a point, it had the novelty of bringing back Hugh Jackman Wolverine and playing with the multiverse concept of bringing Ryan Reynolds into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Unfortunately, it wears off pretty fast in the film, and it's not as creative on a scope sense, and also the action is quite repetitive. It continues on, and it kind of messes up a lot of other future installments right along the way.
Blade.
It's unfortunate how this was such a downgrade to the Deadpool series in itself. The Marvels.
We know that necessarily the Marvel's characters, specifically Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Monica Rambeau.
I would say a difficult time in the culture, cultural zeitgeist. Probably Brie Larson's a little bit more at fault on her issues with the mass public, but I feel as though the other two, Monica Rambeau and Miss Marvel, they'll give a difficult hand, especially since they kind of had, for both of those characters, they actually had well done debuts.
They did, but nobody went to go see those views. These not that mass majority of individuals who needed to see them in order to understand who they are. The movie in itself, and to our surprise, really wasn't all that bad. And to be honest with you, I enjoyed it in the mass majority of it.
Yeah, the interaction between the three leads is some of the best you'll see in the MCU. But unfortunately, a lot of the creative dragging is slow scope, and also unfortunately the villain, pretty forgettable. Thunderbolts.
Listen, we understand that this movie was supposed to be dealing with the subject matter of dealing with depression and whatnot, and in some respects, it does do it.
It's quite surface level though.
Exactly. It's like it's really the whole point, the whole theme behind that film. It's really just surface level antics that's supposed to be around something more interesting and more developed.
And a matter of fact, we addressed earlier, introducing a bigger Marvel heavy hitter. And it's you'll see a common theme why it's so low in this okay section is because you're introducing something so big of a threat but in a very small in scope movie that could have easily have been its own Avengers level movie.
Yes. I mean, why did the Avengers never even showed up? Even you even bring them up, and then there's the other problem with this film is the marketing angle behind it and trying to change it up just so you can actually bring more people in. This whole concept of trying to flip it on its head and making it the new Avengers film, I do not like that.
And then Agatha all along.
This show was cheap. That's my main gripe about it. It was cheap,
But
and
it's
it
cheap.
looked.
But also, why is it higher on the okay section?
That's because it's higher on this section mostly because of the fact that it did bring in some interesting concepts within it. It also had very big ramifications for certain character developments, especially certain individuals within the series itself.
And for the most part, this is probably one of the better cast ensembles.
Yeah,
that really held their own.
This show would not be what it was if it did not have the cast working as hard as they did with the material that they was given.
But you can clearly see where this show was really stretching thin.
Yeah.
On the visuals,
Yes.
the story, the scope of the story in itself, introducing big heavy hitters and a very small scale production. It's not.
It could have been so much better.
As you can see in the television spectrum, they focus heavily on the magical supernatural angle, but you're doing it on television where most people don't watch that stuff.
And you can't really do that stuff to the greatest extent as you should be able to do in a more theatrical sense.
And it's unfortunate that the MCU took that direction. But there are some good highlights here in the MCU that they were able to bring in Phase 5. Ironheart.
When I first heard about the character, this is a character honestly that I really didn't have too much knowledge and background with, but I came to actually understand and love them with what Marvel was able to do. This is mostly really not even just really Marvel, specifically with the directors that was able to handle this particular character.
She made her debut in Ryan Coogler's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and the spin-off from following her story from there. This show does take strong liberties with that comic book character, especially trying to balance out Tony Stark's storyline, the remnants of especially mostly the first movie,
Yes,
as well as some of the more magical elements, ironically, weirdly enough, from the MCU as well, introducing his own big, long-awaited heavy hitter. But the whole cast ends up being a lot more wholesome and we utilized in the film that helped better support Ironheart's story.
very true.
It just women, unfortunately, where it's kind of in this weird situation. Where exactly is this character heading in a whole scheme of things?
Yes, and that's really what's the problem with a lot of these productions going forward. It's like they're almost like throwing things at the wall and hoping something's going to stick, and that's not a very viable way to be able to do your business and to grow a franchise.
Captain America: Brave New World.
Now, with this particular production, again, we actually ended up liking the film. We really did, and that's mostly, I guess, it comes from the fact that we were able to grow with the characters that were in it, specifically characters like Captain America being played with Captain America in this case, Sam Wilson's character, played by Anthony Mackie. I really enjoyed this actor and what they were able to bring to this role, and I feel as though they're an excellent individual to bring into this into the MCU in the way that they have.
I really like how they developed more of Isaiah Bradley's character portrayed by Carl Lumbly. This was another installment that continued on Hawk's mythos, despite the very complicated Universal Disney situation on that front. The movie's flawed, but it was highly entertaining as a more positive end on the mid-tier Marvel.
And we're just going to go ahead and say it again, if we haven't already stated it before. Mid-tier movies have their place. Not everything can be an Avengers level of threat or a big budget epic movie.
But there is a strict line between something that is mid-tier on a small scale section and there's mid-tier
on the higher end section.
And this movie does deserve to be on the bigger screen, more so than some of the other MCU productions as of late. Loki Season 2.
was not a big fan of Loki season 1, and actually was not a fan of what they was doing with the character in general when it was being handled, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've been open about on our feelings with what they've done with the Thor franchise, but with season 2 Loki, I feel as though they really did level this character up and their place in the cinematic universe.
It has one of the strongest and boldest endings in the MCU. It does continue on a very weird note with Jonathan Majors' Kang.
Yeah, what are they going to really do with this character?
I don't know.
It's so I don't know.
It's just unfortunate where this oddly placed season 2 is at. But there was a more higher highlight in Marvel Phase 5 that was originally in the good area, but over time has definitely been deserved to be in the greats, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Loved what James Gunn was able to do with this franchise. I feel as though we've actually really come to respect a lot of his decisions when helming the reins on Guardians of the Galaxy. The storyline they was able to emphasize with Rocket Raccoon and the High Evolutionary was some of the most interesting concepts and heart-wrenching ones that we've actually been able to witness from Marvel.
It still was able to have its own fun side that James Gunn was able to pull off, but this was a well-balanced film. It's unfortunately with what he did with the more standard elements. It makes it difficult to watch.
Yeah.
On multiple viewings, but
it's worth the watch.
It's a proper send off to not only what he did with the Guardians of the Galaxy characters, but also what he did himself in the MCU before he went on and be co-CEO to the competition at DC. But so there we have it. That was our ranking of Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 5.
Where do these movies land on your list? How do you feel about this Phase 5? Are you looking at it in the same way we have, or are you hopeful that the next phase is going to be better?
Yes, and down below, what do you feel about the MCU or superhero genre at the state of Hollywood as we know it?
Is fatigue really a thing? Are we really into that way? I hope not, but it is what it is.
Fantastic Four starts Phase 6.
We're geared to go watch it. We're going to go there. We're going to see what's going on. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, so high concern on that front. And again, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
And this has been a Siki Media Productions.
See y'all there.
See you.